Hey, welcome to At the Buzzer on this FOMC Wednesday. How are we doing today? Chat, let us know how you did today. And welcome, the lovely Anne Marie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the compliment. There's nothing quite like paint and spackling to help a woman out, especially at my
Oh,
age.
show us your hands. You have spackle on them?
I washed them before I came in,
uh,
so I'm all
yeah,
good.
yeah, that's not my strength. Painting and I are I hire
Well,
painters.
well, luckily, when you put it on your face, most guys don't want to do that. So there you have it.
So, let's run down today's action. But first, at the buzzer is a show where we review today's action in futures markets. There's 35 markets that we can trade here at Topstep. Um, we will cover the four majors and also review the action of the day. Um, First thing we'll do is the biggest percentage movers today. Number one is one we've been talking about, and I missed today. But platinum, July platinum up 4.5%, up $57. Big move there. Wheat was up 4.5%, also up 25 cents. Big move in wheat. And one we have been watching that's starting to catch up with the crude is natural gas, up 3.5%.
Yeah, that was a beast of a move today.
Yeah, that was one way move. On the
Hmm.
downside, we covered this yesterday. Micro Bitcoin down 0.75%, gold down 0.7%, and soybean oil down 0.3%. So the big news, though, was the vaunted and waited for FOMC, where rates remained unchanged, much to the
Shock.
chagrin of our president. Um, but what was it yesterday? 99% for unchanged, and it did not disappoint. Um, but the most important thing usually comes out of it is Chairman Powell's comments after. Is there anything you saw in the news that you'd like to talk about?
Well, from the news pace perspective, the biggest thing that I think is good for the macro bond environment is that the House released a bill that was going to ease the restrictions on banks to hold long-term um, bonds, and so that was really quite a relief to the long end of the curve. That's lifting, which is, great for the yields, should pull the bonds back in. That structurally is the most important thing that happened in the markets today in terms of the release of that note. Last night, I was really fortunate to be on Slow Markets with Coach Hoop, and he and I spoke about a lot of different things, but in particular, what the formations look like. And they look very sideways to me. This morning, I put a video out. You guys can find it on the Coach Anne Marie channel in Discord, where I put out all the levels that I'm watching and what I'm setting up for trade. And literally, so many of the charts did exactly what we expected them to do, which is a little bit of nothing. And you can sort of see that by the sideways price action. So, from a news based perspective, Powell said all of the same things, right? And it was almost like not news because everybody is still very consumed with what's going on from a war perspective. Last night, Hoop and I also talked about this move in oil. My thought is that it was a short squeeze. I may have mentioned that yesterday also. I still believe it is. We're trapped up at the top, really wide ranges. I think the reason that the dips are so aggressively bought is because these shorts are taking any opportunity to cover. It's sort of like what you said yesterday. You said, who's going to be buying it here, right? And
All
that
right.
certainly is playing out the same way. I suspect fade action. We also talked about gold. I said, hey, listen, I think gold is a short. Same sort of thing going on. A blow off top from times earlier, and now we're just rotating back down into heavy congestion. And so I'm interested to see how you looked at the charts, and then pull up the charts that I have in terms of the expected move, how the traders behaved around it, and that sort of thing.
Well, one of the things, like I said, I call it violently unchanged. Um, we traded both sides of unchanged, and there is no imbalance. No one's stuck here. Um, Imbalances move a market. I don't
I was
see
just going to
big.
ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see big allocations with this war in mind. Um, and it's a hair trigger. One Something could happen, as we saw last week. In an instant, you could see energy prices explode again. You want to, at that point, inflation comes in; it's going to affect everything. So, with that, if I'm going to put my hat as a large institution, I'm not going to go all in.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
think they're just
Same.
parsing what they have to. Um, with the idea in mind, we don't even hear about tariffs. That wasn't even in. It hasn't been a headline for a while. But we'll go over the crude market with FOMC out of the way. Um, you know, Remaining unchanged. Um, Chair Powell did talk about they're watching the impacts of tariffs. Um, he did say, and I noted this one, someone has to pay for the tariffs. And I thought that was his way of throwing a shot back to his critics. And he also, I, he's declaring his independence, which you would want. He's a banker through and through. And he's very calm, but he's also he's not going to be swayed by politics. And I kind of get that feeling listening to him. Just he's a data driven man. The data will give him the information he needs to make decisions. I find that very professional. Um, so he did, he gave a tone of cautiousness, um, and they're going to hold their policy and see the data as it comes in. The unemployment data hasn't been dramatic, um, so it goes all back to geopolitical pressure. Um, so with that, let's get into today's action. We'll bring up the chart. I have a daily here in the S&P. Blow it out. We held on the daily the 20-day moving average. We're holding this trend line. We have overhead resistance. We're in a range we've been in since we got over the 200-day moving average. But I am concerned, if I'm long, that we've lost our upside energy. After this dramatic rally, you would like to see it make new highs of the move, and it hasn't done that in a week. So we're in a holding pattern, staying above the 200, above the 20. It is the summer, so really not much to say on this daily, except for we are in an uptrend. We continue in this holding pattern. Is there anything else you see in this?
Actually, there's a fair bit. And so as we take a look at the chart, the hourly formations early today, we had a little bit of volatility expansion that began to compress overnight. And so we had the daily expected move high all the way up at 60.99 and the low all the way down at 59.69, and the market stayed sideways. Now, my thought was that we would have a sideways day, and the reason being is, one, if we anchor a VWAP off of the highest volume candlesticks that we see on the hourly formation, we can see that that VWAP is flat in general, and we can see lower highs, but also higher lows. So we are compressing. We're going to have a substantial move in one form or another very shortly. Don't have any idea what direction it's going to be in, but in order to be prepared, we can take a look at these lower highs and higher lows, and the expectation is that we're pretty close to that time frame because we could see that wedge building. Now, as many of you know that potentially watch me, I always draw a range out across the opening candlestick formation of the day we're going to trade, and then also from the days past, so I can see generally where we're trapped. And you'll notice today at about 10 o'clock and also at about 2 o'clock Eastern Time, we came into the prior opening candlestick formation of yesterday, but we could not stay there. And so to me, that said, all right, I've got flat VWAP. What I'm going to do is go from the upper edge of the range to the lower edge of the range. And so my expectation was that we could potentially come all the way back to 60.19. We did not. We stopped at the halfway mark of the opening range, that Globex hour. You can see that 50% marker really mattering in a lot of different charts. And so I'd urge you to do that. So we're definitely are going to see something coming. How I would look to trade this is anticipating that the range holds, but if it falls out of the range, you can immediately choose a buy stop or a sell stop and go in the direction of trend. Today's largest move was a sideways candlestick right here. And so as we move forward, we might be able, yes, the volume's higher. Let's move this one over here. And that's going to be the anchored VWAP that we start with when the markets open up at 6 o'clock. I do want to show the oil chart, if it's okay with you, Coach Paul. I'd like to jump straight to oil. And again, this is one we talked about in the overnight. Those of
Is
you
that the
that were with
60
us,
minute? Is that the
yes,
60-minute
sir.
chart?
60-minute
Okay.
chart. It's my go-to. And I saw this support and potential break to the upside. I really wanted to take a short, but I thought, all right, the buyers will come in here at the floor of the support zone. I was looking for 40 ticks and it gave it to me, closed the trade up, and then, I went to bed. I didn't really worry about it. Notice that the price action came into the high of the 1 hour open and then immediately reversed. And look at where it reversed to. It reversed to the daily expected move that we calculate from the option chains and immediately began to bounce. Cannot get over the high of that opening tick in the overnight. So here, I would again suspect, if we break to the north, that we should fade again. I suspect there are a lot of forces that are going to try and hold oil down in an effort to tamp down on inflation. But it's super important to notice that this one came into the daily expected moves. If you say to yourself, hey, where can I get those? What can I do? You can easily go to the Coach Anne-Marie channel. And every single morning, I put it up for a variety of contracts, as well as explaining what it looks like. But it's super important.
Anne-Marie, how do you calculate the daily expected range and for you? Because I use the average true range. I'd like to understand the difference for our audience.
Okay, so it's very different. What I do is I go to one of my trading platforms where I trade options, and I go to the option chain. And because we know that the tail wags the dog here, I want to see where they've positioned in terms of calculation for highs and lows. And so if it gives me 1 day of expiration, it might say, hey, this has got a $2 spread on it. So this one actually did. It had a $2 spread from the opening, a little bit more than a $2. And so I simply subtracted $2 from the opening tick and put it on the bottom, and then added $2 to, it was $2 and something, to the opening tick, and I added to the top. Those two give me the range. It tells me, so quick little storyboard. Here's how you tell what's happening when people buy or sell options. Let's say you're very bullish on oil and you go in and you buy a futures option, right? And you say, hey, I'm going to buy the 77. All right, whatever that is. You're going to buy because you're bullish on gold and you think it's going to go up tomorrow. Well, the market maker, in order to have you buy that option, he has to sell it to you. When he sells it to you, it creates a negative impact on his portfolio. All he cares about is being delta neutral. So he will immediately have to buy stock until that delta gets a little bit more in line with what his entire portfolio is as he's managing the trade. If it runs higher over this edge, he's going to have to buy more of it in order to bring himself back to delta neutral as the short call goes deeper in the money for him, but also deeper in the money for you because you've bought that option. Hopefully that makes some sense, but that's why options can create incredible market flow in one direction or another.
They're in options. They're measuring. Think of your insurance company.
Yes,
that's a good one. It's a measure of volatility. The difference between a 16-year-old high school male and an 80-year-old female who drives the church.
I don't know.
On
I think those. I don't know. I'm thinking those might be the same rates.
It's a function of risk, is the bottom line. So what I find interesting is that every day, when you set that up, you're looking at 1 day options or longer term options.
It's always 1 day.
1 day. So they're expecting
because I'm an
their
intraday
volatility
trader.
is measuring $2.
Yeah.
And that $2
Joe,
would be above or below the open or above or
No, the
below the settlement?
Globex, the Globex Open.
Yeah, not the
We're always
settlement.
measuring the Globex Open, not settlement, the
Okay.
Globex event. So Joe Chikungle, hope I'm saying that right. Anne-Marie, could you explain how you use the first hour of trading? Is it Globex Open or US Open? It's always Globex. Always Globex. And what I'm measuring is how committed are these guys to the opening price? If they're super committed to the opening price, it's going to hold it and move to the upside. If they're not committed, it's going to break and they're going to go to the downside. And in times like this, when you've got a flat VWAP, it's going to move sideways. And so this morning, I said, listen, we got nothing but garbage charts here. You want to look for the very deep wicks to try for a long or the very big spikes to go for short. And that's exactly what happened, except for natural gas. That
Which is
thing was a beast today. They don't call it the Widowmaker for nothing. So its expected move was 3.970. The high is over 4. Now, folks, this trades in 10,000ths of a penny. So when it moves, you can make a boatload of cash, or you can be selling pigeons, feeding pigeons in the park.
well, it
There's
does
no,
have. It's nice. They have a mini contract that's one
yes, they do
quarter
that.
the size.
Cool.
That's
Mm-hmm.
I highly advise our
Yeah,
audience if you're going to trade
definitely.
natural
If
gas,
you if
trade
you're
the
doing
minis.
it for the first time, yes. If you're doing it for the first time, most definitely. Again, here's how we do it. You measure the opening range, you know what the implied vol is for the day, and then you watch it. If it breaks the opening range, pulls back, and then retests it, like it does here, it's long action. If it, because the overall trend is up. If it breaks to the short edge of it, you know it's hunting for support to give us either a lower high, a test of the old high, or a higher high, and that's because the trend is up. Everything should be relative to trend when you're trading. And if you see it break this 1 hour formation, say to yourself, what's trend on the hourly? Ooh, it's up because I'm making low, high, higher low, higher high, excuse me, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I know I'm looking for support. So trend tells me if I'm rotating downward underneath that 1 hour formation, I'm hunting for support. And once it gets back in the range, you can actually trade it. And definitely once it gets above the moving average. If you just take the breakout above the high, you're also going to be in good shape for a long. But this one, I expect it to collapse. Why? This chart has a very interesting pattern of retracing gigantic moves. And so take a look at this form, right? So this is a very ugly head and shoulders pattern right here. And the range is, whoa, $1.20. So what we've had happen is a big spike up, a big spike down, noisy action here. I expect it to either test this level above at 420 and then fade or collapse right here and then come back into the range. I really think that it's going to run out of steam, but it could
Yeah.
have a little bit of double topping formation right here to pull back. And if it holds $4.80, excuse me, wrong chart. If it holds $3.76, it's probably got a lot more upshot on it.
Well, the way I look at it, if we bring up my chart, I have a daily of the natural gas. We're above the 200. moving average above the 50 and above the
Yeah.
20.
This one's getting ready
We
to
broke
move.
that downtrend line in light of this geopolitical situation. Natural gas is also very affected by this. Although in the United States we have plenty of natural gas, but
Yeah.
worldwide this can be affected. I'm actually kind of friendly to it. Um, this is a breakout on the daily. We're above the 200 on the half hour, and I think we're above it on the 60-minute chart.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you a question, Coach Paul. How
hmm
do you use that 200 when you're actively trading during the day?
Well, it gives me. I'm looking. My bias comes from the 200. If
Okay.
it's above it on the half hour, I'm going to look for a place to buy it. I'm
Okay.
with limited
All right.
risk. So it was
Okay.
interesting. On here, we opened with a gap Sunday
Uh-huh.
night above the 200, where we finished uh, on Friday. I don't carry natural gas over the weekend. That's where the widows are
That's how you
made.
stay alive. Yeah.
uh,
That's why you're still alive.
so we had that, but that's how I look at it. If it's and especially if it's above the daily and it's above the
Uh-huh.
half hour,
Hmm.
I'm looking for a place to buy it. Certain
Okay.
structures where I can
Okay.
take good measured risk. Doesn't mean I don't. I'm looking for a place to lean on.
Okay.
But I always like, my when I look at things, I look at the daily, the half hour, and then I'll break it down to the opening range.
And
Um,
you like the 30-minute, correct?
I like the 30-minute. I grew up on market profiles.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
so this market seems to me like it's fear. There wasn't enough premium in it after this war broke out, and it's catching up to the other natural. It's catching up to the crude as far as risk premium. Like you said, it's a widow maker, and this with the fear in natural gas when it goes,
Oh yeah.
it's a monster.
Yeah.
Um, so to me, it seems that it the commercials are hedging; they're buying it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
doesn't mean
No
it
doubt
continue
about it.
continue, but to me,
Yeah.
that's how I go with. That's how I determine the trend.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely still be long, but I'd be waiting for a pullback in order to go long.
yeah, look
Yeah.
for a J trade on a 3 minute. Let's see it.
Yeah. I
For
you know
Coach
that's
J.
funny. I tried doing the 3-minute and it's way too fast for me. So that's why I use the hourly. I use the hourly formation and then I'll just watch for prices to behave properly up and outside of a range. But I started measuring the 1 hour candlestick volume and anchoring the VWAP there because I watched Jay. And I find it to be so useful. I mean, absolutely incredibly useful. For instance, if we take a look at the highest volume candle in the Nat Gas daily chart, take a look at it. We're sitting right inside of that box, and this was executed on the 30th of December, and it's dancing in that range. And it went to the top of the range and completely collapsed, tried to break down, but could not. I think it filled the gap in terms of volume analysis. And so I definitely think there's room to run. I don't think it's going to be in a straight line.
Well, another thing, we're in summer. If there's 95-degree weather coming here in the Midwest,
Yep.
now why would that make a difference in natural gas? Natural gas is the energy of choice for electric companies to turn
Hmm.
the turbines.
Yep.
Um, by the way, I know people who
And for
trade
Europe also.
electricity. and Europe also.
Mm-hmm.
And electricity is by far the most volatile market, period, because
Yeah,
you can't store electricity.
right.
So it's always on demand. Um, but natural gas is affected by weather. 90% of it is affected by weather. If there, I know there's some really warm weather coming here. Maybe that was unexpected, but that could be part of this move higher in natural gas.
Also, this is the time of year where nat gas does tend to rise, the summer
Yep.
months. So
So
we have all of that seasonally in our favor. Let's take a look at copper.
copper,
Yes, Dr.
Dr.
Copper.
Copper.
So we can see copper caught right inside of its range. The expirations for copper, they don't have chains that expire daily. So we have to use these weekly ranges, actually, sorry, monthly ranges. And we can see that copper is trying to move to the north. I mean, it is trying. Higher lows, but unable to break the highs. If they break the highs, they're going to have a collision course with the expected move above 495. My thought is the sweet spot to buy copper right now is 4.80, 4.81. It's been beautiful to run. It just came into resistance. I would buy the low and sell it at congestion because all of the momentum, particularly if we look at Williams percent R, it's still sitting in the flat zone. Notice when copper's momentum sort of sits right here, it just goes frickin' sideways. And when it does break out, whoops, when it does break out, it pulls back to retest. And so we've got a move coming here, but no clue really as to direction. In general, I would think that um, it's probably upside, but not without a lot of volatility. So also a volatile um, position to look at. I want
All
to
right,
look
look at
also, let me look at Bitcoin very quickly. Do you trade Bitcoin at all?
all the time. Like
Oh,
futures,
awesome.
I don't. It's just I don't
Oh, yeah, yeah,
trade
yeah.
cash.
Me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been
I
trading
like
it since day one. I really
awesome.
like.
Yeah, I like it too. I have not been trading it for very long, probably about a year. And so again, the chains, the implied volatility chains tell me where the chart is holding. The daily action is pretty range bound, right? I mean, it's pretty range bound. A lot of people, I mean, a lot of people have very important, I mean, very loud opinions about what's going on with Bitcoin. I don't care whether it's fiat, whether it's not fiat, whether it is real, whether it's not real. It's just something I can trade. A great vehicle for me to put cash in my account. And so take a look at this morning, opening range, flat moving averages. So the flat VWAP, I don't use anything but anchored VWAPs and then the broad VWAP. I don't use any measured action. Everything runs off volume. And so this flat VWAP here told me very likely that this overnight high would bring a retest of the formation. So notice the double bottom, nice big double bottom coming into that edge. They held it very cleanly. Now they're at the top of the opening range. I suspect they stall out here a little bit. If it spikes, it's a great short. Um, if I put an order in here, will it go off at the open? I'm going to have to do
Well,
that.
you can't put one in Topstep. If you put it in the I don't
Yeah,
think you would. I think you
I'll
have to
wait.
wait till the opening.
Yeah, I'll wait until it opens. Let me write that
Yeah.
number down. 1057. Yeah, I like that area as a short. Again, my stop will be very tight. It's still going to run expected moves from yesterday. And we've got a resistance edge from a high volume, oh no, from an opening range formation from 4 days ago. And so that's what I would be looking for the price action to do. Just spike up into that area and rotate back down. I like this one. It's still trading in a range, and I've got a push of momentum, but I think it collides into the space at the top. What would you look at if you were trading Bitcoin?
I'm looking at it right now. It would have to get. Let me bring it up. Uh,
Coach Jay, we're so happy you came to visit.
I'm looking forward to meeting him in a couple hours here. Personally, we
Oh,
worked
nice.
together for 2 years, so I'm looking forward to tonight. That ought to be fun seeing the rest of the coaches and having fun. So in
Yeah.
Bitcoin, it's under the 20-day moving average on the daily here.
Mm-hmm.
It's and you see this 20-day moving average curling down.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm looking to buy it, it's kind of in a rut.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I go to the 30-minute, and it's interesting. It has been below it most of the week, the 200-day bar moving average. So I would have to have a close on this 30-minute above that and lean on that to stay above that average on a close.
Okay,
So
so would you
maybe
look
tonight,
for a retest of that moving average, or you just
I
want
think
it to
it has a
break over
chance.
the average, or
It would have to close. So I don't. It can trade above it, but it'd have to close above it on the half hour for me to buy it.
okay.
When that happens, then I can determine how much risk there is in buying it. Um, so if I
Interesting.
was looking at the 20 bar moving average, right, on this chart, it closed
Mm-hmm.
above, not
Mm-hmm.
just traded. It closes above. Then when it closes, that's when I come in to buy it.
Okay.
Um, in the 200, it would have to close, and then I risk on the half hour. I would risk two average true ranges, which was about 1,200 ticks on Bitcoin, which is about $120.
Okay.
Um, and I would look on a day trade. I'm always looking 2 to 1. But right here in Bitcoin, it's going to be interesting because Bitcoin, there's no holiday for Bitcoin.
Mm-mm. Oh,
And so funky things can happen.
yeah.
What is happened though in the Bitcoin space is it relies on the liquidity. I'm starting to see, I believe it relies on the liquidity of the futures.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of liquidity that comes with the futures. So it'd be interesting to see what happens tomorrow in the
Mm-hmm.
cash versus the futures with the futures being closed at what, noon? Or they won't even be open, will they? They'll
No,
be
they won't be open. Mm-mm.
so. Um, but overall, that's the least I would need to look to buy Bitcoin. It's still in an uptrend, but it's the way I look at it, it's losing its momentum.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree.
so exposure is really what risk is. So when
Yep.
I look for the least amount of exposure. That's two ATRs in whatever time frame I'm trading in. That's the most I'm going to risk. Doesn't mean so if I bought Bitcoin and I didn't go two ATRs, but it closes underneath the moving average I got in, I'm out. I don't have to wait to get stopped out.
Okay.
So that way I can limit my exposure and limit my risk. All right,
Okay,
we
good.
haven't covered gold. Speaking of
Yeah.
losing its momentum,
Yeah.
um, looking at the daily, we're still above the 20 bar moving average. Um, but we're this little double top here for this move is if I'm long gold, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
We talked about this yesterday. That's still the range of the 78% on a fib move.
Hmm.
It's rejected it now one, two, three, four times. Um, and with World War knocking at the door, you would think gold. And we talked
Yeah,
about
and
this.
so, that really tells me that there probably isn't. But what's super interesting is that once again, it came to the base of the expected move, right? The
Yeah.
calculated expected move. We drew it actually last night, and I said, you know what, I want to short this. And I mean, absolutely, you can see inventory accumulating, 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 distribution, right? So the question is, does it bounce and then fall some more? Which I suspect that might be the next place. But it really does tell me, wait a second, if people in the know are really concerned about war, shouldn't it be going higher? And so, since it's not, my question then is, well, what else is going higher? And of course, we could see nat gas is great, insane. And then, of course, platinum, which just
That's
rocketed to the moon.
so. This is interesting because I wanted to bring that up today. Was was the biggest mover. I'll bring it up here on the daily, and why there. Look at that. I mean, that truly is the rocket.
Insane. That's an
So
insane move.
the I'll just go back, and I've mentioned this before. When I started, when I was 19 years old at the Mid America Commodity Exchange, so this is 1980. Platinum was twice the price of gold, and gold was at an all-time high.
Really?
Yeah, and there was Iran hostage crisis. There
Hmm.
was a new Fed chairman. There was much the same. I was funny. I was like much kind of the scenarios were in inflation. Um, but platinum and gold have a relationship. Um, Platinum is an industrial metal that's used in jewelry also.
Hmm.
Now, I find it interesting that platinum is making this move like gold is starting to lose momentum. It
Yeah.
seems to me that
Super
whoever,
weird.
yeah, there's an unwinding, or platinum is better value buy for the same Asian
That's
that
a
we're buying.
great thought right there.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
downside is minimal because if we look at one of the things I always review weekly and monthly charts.
That's a
Um,
great
we've
thought,
been
Paul.
platinum is sideways.
Yeah.
So for value, but platinum has less downside risk. Let's put it, it's probably a
Yeah.
better hedge now than
The
gold.
last time that platinum hit this level was in February of 2021.
Yeah. And it's coming with some momentum. One of the things we
Yes,
look at
straight up.
from last night's opening on Globex, Jay and I watch this all the time. That opening was interesting. We had selling in that on the first half an hour. Old saw is bad selling drives a market higher. So in this, the half hour we use as in the evening as the opening range. We made this. We had the selling, but VWAP did not leave that opening range. As a matter of fact, look what it did. It went flat and started going higher. We broke out on a price, and then when VWAP left, it exploded. That was London time, but that's a classic opening range breakout trade. Why half an hour in the evening? Because it's lower volume overall. But if we just framed out London open,
What is that, 4 a.m.?
No. 3
5
a.m.
a.m.?
Central, 4 a.m. Eastern.
4 a.m. Eastern. Okay.
So this buying is,
Yeah.
if we look
Pretty
from,
impressive.
when I worked on a trading desk where we passed the deck. So every 8 hours it goes from, let's start in London to New York to Asia. So those time frames are important. We find out here's the Asian Open. Here is London Open. Here is New York Open. All those we're starting to see that's continuous buying. This is very strong. And you can see with VWAP, it's always curving higher.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig around the CME and see what I can see about what's going on with platinum.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah,
interesting. That is, platinum is a NYMEX contract. It was on the New York Mercantile Exchange.
Oh,
Because
okay.
we think of energy, but they've been trading platinum for a long time. There
Oh,
was a big
interesting.
fight. There was a big fight in getting when gold futures started trading between New
Gotcha.
York, Chicago, London. It was always the London fix. But the NYMEX, which came along later, the NYMEX started like 1979, 1980. They couldn't get gold, so they went to platinum. And
Yeah.
platinum is, like I said, it's breaking out. It's $50, $5 a tick, $50 range for a $10 move. It's well within it. It's reasonable
Yeah.
risk, but the bottom line, this platinum to me looks like it's got that. This is major buying by an entity. This isn't some big hedge fund buying it, because there's a pattern here. We used to call it, we had this in a gold, Asian Open, and it runs. So that is definitely has that type of movement to it.
Yeah. Very interesting. I'm definitely going to check it out. Yeah, that's a runaway train. We'll have to
Yeah,
see if it has any kind of retracement. If it can build any kind of clean retracement.
yeah. So that's the way I look at things: buying dips in a rallying, selling
Mhm.
rallies in a downward market. That's how I. That's my vision when I look at opportunity. Now we're all different, but I came from a trend following group.
Mhm.
The beauty about, and we'll go this trading futures, is you have all all this opportunity in all these different segments of the economy.
Yeah.
Um, so to me, I think that is what's the strongest thing about futures. If you don't abuse leverage.
Yes, of course. Isn't that true with everything, though? Just don't abuse leverage. Even with our friendships.
Another thing I want to look at is I want to look silver.
Yeah.
Broke today, but it's having its moment too.
Yep.
Um, we're staying above these highs.
I got short in silver at the beginning of the trading day, and it sat in this frickin' zone. I mean, literally, it was a Deanna length trade. I literally was in it for almost 4 hours. I got in before, um, I think it was just before 11 o'clock, and it was against me, and it was for me, and it was against me, and it was for me. And then when it finally broke down after Fed Powell started speaking, I was like, I am getting out of here. Like $600, and I'm like, I'm done. Bye-bye. And so, but I do love trading silver. It's really, once it gets itself organized, as long as you manage your risk, you're in really, really great shape. It is a good looking chart, but I also believe it is in a fade formation. And the largest volume candlestick of the day occurred at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we are now at the bottom of it, trying to get ourselves up in there. Notice slightly upward anchored VWAP, downward regular VWAP. I think the bounces are going to be sell zones here, so going to have to wait it out. But luckily, I'm really glad we both have the day off tomorrow. It's going to be nice to take a breath. I have to hop on a plane, but that's okay. It'll be good to just get out and do something different. I've been chained to the desk.
Yes, being chained to the desk, and I'm glad that it's a day off because I think I'm going to need it after tonight. Some meetup.
Oh, I hope
Um,
you have a great time. You guys got to send pictures, and I guess I'm gonna watch my alerts on my phone for when it goes live because that's gonna be so fun.
it should be a lot of fun.
I miss
Who
those.
knows yeah, I miss those. I won't miss a hangover, so maybe I won't partake. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
that was a smirk.
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
yeah,
I get it.
that's not gonna happen. I can fool myself all I want, so it'll be fun. Be great to see the crew, um, and meet some of our top step traders.
I
It's going
know.
to be
It's gonna be
crowded from
so
what I
fun.
understand,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
there's nothing like meeting people live. Um,
Yeah.
so one of the biggest things I miss from the floor is, in all my years, I met people. I have friends all over the world from every different corner of the world, fresh perspectives, friendships. Um, one of the things that's what I really miss is you really get to know people when you meet them and personally. So it should be a lot of fun tonight. Um, so if you're going to be there, look for me. I'll be wearing this green shirt and I'll be bald. So where are you
Thanks,
off to,
everybody.
Anne Marie? You're always off
Oh,
to
you know
some.
what? I know I am a traveling gal. So, one of our sons is getting married this weekend, and his wedding is in Pennsylvania. So we are headed up there for the long weekend, and I'm going to be exhausted when I return. I'm not really good in crowds. I love people, but I much prefer them one-on-one. I get very awkward in groups. Well, I'm kind of an awkward person anyway, a little bit of
Oh,
a
I don't
nerd.
believe that.
And so, oh no, it's true. It's true.
Oh,
It just takes you a minute. Ask Gabe. He knows about me being awkward. So I'm excited that everybody gets to be together, and I am really. It was nice to spend time with you again. Look over the
yes.
markets. It's going to be an exciting couple of days.
Yes,
Um,
it
once we
should
get
be.
back. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So with that, I was it was been a lot of fun having being with you the last 2 days.
yeah. Same.
Everybody have a safe holiday. And get some rest. Go out
Yeah,
and enjoy the day because no one ever said, "Boy, I wish I would have traded more on their deathbed." I don't, I don't think
yeah,
so. Enjoy the
yeah.
time off. Get some rest. Rest your mind. Um, rest your soul, and come back with a great plan and great trading. So, with that, any final words, Anne Marie?
Nope. I think you put the cherry on top.
All right, everybody. So, see you later.